Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Mom Mode. This week, we have Xenia on the podcast, and I'm so excited to have Xenia tell her story of becoming a mom and what that has led into for her career. So, Xenia, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so nice to have you here.
Thanks, Nicole. It's so nice to be here. Yeah, I'm really excited to share a little bit about my journey.
Yeah, for those who don't know you, can you just give us like a brief intro to who you are?
Yes, so I'm Xenia. I am from St. Pete, Florida, and I have a daughter. She is 5.5 now. So I experienced pregnancy and birth through COVID. And yeah, it kind of changed the trajectory of my career. So I've been a therapist, but after having my daughter, I went right into wanting to learn more about just kind of maternal mental health, perinatal mental health, postpartum anxiety, depression, all of the things, and just kind of like the huge identity shift to motherhood that we
Yeah.
experience. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am now. And so my practice and family therapy really focuses on that.
I love that. And it's so true. There's just such a huge shift that happens. And I feel like sometimes we understand that it's happening and other times we don't. And we don't know how to express even what we're feeling. Um, and sometimes that's how we kind of can get lost in the weeds. And, the depression and the anxiety could really take over and start showing in different areas. And it's easier for some than others.
Yeah,
But I think we all experience it at some level, especially during like that season of like being a new mom, that first child.
oh,
Um,
totally.
but I have heard it also said that like some people experience it with their second and third and not their first. So, there's probably many different factors that go into that. But I'm so it's such an amazing career that you've found yourself in. And I'm sure like you're very passionate about it from your own personal experience. Um, and COVID is definitely, we were talking about this before we were recording. I'm like, that's definitely an interesting time to have a baby. So how, were you trying to get pregnant? Was it unexpected? How was pregnancy during COVID?
Yeah. So it was very unexpected. So I actually, let's see, so I'm in Florida now, but I moved away from home like during college and then for grad school. I was in New Orleans and I actually experienced like this big breakup. And so I moved to Nashville because I was like, where's another fun place I can go?
Yeah.
And so I was excited. I was just meeting new people and I was like, oh, I'm going to live my single girl era in Nashville. And then, of course, a couple months later, I meet someone,
Hmm.
and
So always when you
that's
want to be single, like you're like okay
exactly.
with it that they'd come in the picture.
Right, exactly. I was like, "Oh, I was supposed to be well, okay."
Yeah.
So I met my now husband, but yeah, so we met in Nashville and we were dating. We had been dating about a year. We had just moved in together. Um, and I remember I had just gotten like a promotion at work. I was in community mental health at the time. And I was like, "Oh, I'm feeling stressed. Like maybe that's why I'm late." And that has happened to me before. Like
Yeah.
I'm have a pretty regular cycle, but when I get stressed, and I'm sure a lot of women can relate to that, where you're just like, "Oh, if something is just off, like that's why."
Yeah.
No, actually, that was not what happened. So I remember I was in the bathroom just kind of doing my like night routine. And I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to take a test. Cause like once I take a test, surely it'll say no, and then I won't be stressed about it."
Yeah, and then your
Um,
period will come. Like that's the thought.
exactly. It's a magical thing that happens. No, but so I remember taking the test and just kind of setting it to the side and then like, doing my moisturizer and then looking at it and it said pregnant. It was like a digital
Mhm.
test. And I literally remember like throwing it out of my hands because I was like, oh my God, I was not expecting that. It was just out of the blue.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was 28 at the time, so it, was not like but I felt like a teenager, like I
Mhm.
felt like, "Oh my gosh, this is so crazy, unexpected, like, I don't know what to do," even thinking about, like, calling my mom. I remember when I was talking to her, I was like, I'm nervous to tell you this." She was like, "Why?" So and also I should say, my mom is a labor and delivery nurse, so I know a lot of things about pregnancy and labor and delivery. I used to, like, go to work with her all the time. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, and I remember the next day, I had, like, sat with it all night, couldn't sleep, and the next day we went for a little day trip to Chattanooga from Nashville, and I told him in the car, and I was like, "Hey, so I took this test last night," and he's like, "Oh, okay." And he was like, "What did it say?" And I was like, "I'm pregnant." He was like, "Oh, cool."
Wow, what a great response.
And
Like,
I was
just
like,
like super like, okay, we're just gonna go with it.
"Yeah, we're just going with it." And I was like, I remember at the time I was like, "I'm freaking out. How are you not freaking out?" He was like, "No, that's great. Like, I'm excited." And I was like,
Oh,
"Okay, great." Which did ease my nervousness, ease my fears,
yes.
but
Because it's very
yeah.
important to have, I mean, especially in such an unexpected situation, to have someone that
Mhm.
is supportive going through it
Yes.
with you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that would be definitely hard to process. I definitely understand being 28 because I look back often now. Like I met my husband when I was 30. And at
Mhm.
28, I definitely felt like a kid.
Yeah.
I was still just like roaming around, feeling like I was in college, even though I was way
Right.
past college. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think anytime you get that positive test, even when my husband and I were trying, and I'm like, oh my God, it's
Mhm.
positive. And he's like, well, what did you think? And I'm like, well, I don't know. You're still in shock. And then
Yes.
your life kind of flashes before you for a second. You're like, oh, wow. And like you said, a lot about pregnancy, a lot about different scenarios that I'm sure have
Mhm.
happened with your mom being a labor and delivery nurse. Um, so what'd you guys do from there? Like, when did you decide to relocate back to St. Pete? Was that before you had your daughter or
It was after. So,
okay.
well, it was like a thought that I had,
I guess COVID too is a
considered.
tricky time because you're
It
like,
was tricky.
what do
So
we do?
right. So I found out I was pregnant. I think it wasn't until almost 8 weeks that I even like took the test, I guess, or like I had almost
Wow.
been 8 weeks. So, um, which says a lot about my pregnancy. I was like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's kind of nice to get through," like,
Yeah, like
that.
8 weeks, you're like, okay, I'm almost in the home stretch of like
Yeah, I was like,
being out of
"Okay."
this. Cause I
Yeah,
found out at 3 weeks and 4 weeks.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that's her.
My first pregnancy test, I didn't even miss my period. I just had a feeling I was pregnant. And I took it and I'm like, we're there.
You're there.
Um, okay, so 8 weeks. And so what did you guys do next?
Yeah. So, this was I think maybe, it was in the news, COVID, you know what I mean? Like, about
Yeah.
like, you would hear random
Just
things,
weird
but
stuff that you wouldn't pay
right,
attention to yet, but you're like hearing this
exactly.
name and stuff.
Yeah, you're just like, "Okay, that's weird," but, nobody's, like, doing anything yet. Um, so things were kind of, quote, unquote, "normal" at the time, and then, I remember I mean, I told my mom, but I didn't really tell anyone else until 12 weeks, just because, again, like, with my mom knowing so much, she's kind of in that, like, safer zone, and also it just being so unexpected, I was, like, kind of nervous, and I was like, "I really hope this goes well, but I don't know." I know a lot can happen in the first
Yeah.
trimester, so was like, okay, let's, maybe I'll just wait to share. And then after the new year was when I kind of shared with some people, and that was really nice. Um, and then let's see. So I guess it was March that everything kind of changed of
March
2020.
2020. I feel like
Yeah.
that's, yeah, when I like can really think of it.
Yeah.
Like the grocery stores being cans off the shelf, toilet paper sold
Yes.
out everywhere. It was like March.
Yes. And so that was crazy. Yeah, I remember the toilet paper stuff and just being
Mhm.
like, is this
Just so silly now when
serious?
you look back
I
at
know.
it.
I know. So it was scary just in the sense of like no one knew how it was going to affect you, how it was going to affect, unborn babies, like pregnant
Mhm.
women, all of those things. And so I remember everyone just being like, stay inside, like don't go anywhere, don't do anything. And I was like, for my own sanity, I have to go for a walk. Like,
Yeah.
and all of my sessions had changed from in person to now virtual, which I will say, has been really nice in general. But at
Mhm.
the time, it was just so different. So, um, then I would say a lot of my appointments kept getting like pushed back or changed just in terms of them not wanting like too many people in the office at one time, like at the OB office.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that was a little interesting. And then, so my gestational diabetes appointment got pushed back pretty far. I would say I wasn't even I was like at week 30, maybe even 32 by the time I took the glucose
Wow.
test.
Because isn't it 28 weeks normally?
Yeah,
27, 28 weeks.
yes, it was originally scheduled for 27, but because of all the appointments shifting around and everything, and I had had so far like a pretty normal pregnancy, they were comfortable with that, and so that's where we were. But so I went and I took the test and failed it, so I had to take the, like, what is it? Like, the
Is it a 3 hour
3-hour.
one?
Yes. And I remember I feel like now I would be like, "Oh, I have to go to the doctor for 3 hours," but at the time, I was like, "Well, I'm just sitting at home," you know? It's
Yeah.
not a big deal. Um, so then when I found out that I did have gestational diabetes was when we went to, um started going to, like, the maternal fetal medicine doctor, and again, now it would be so different, but at the time, I was like, "Oh, this is fun. I get to go see my baby," every, like,
That
I
part
think.
is nice though, because you get like
Mhm.
better scans.
Way better scans. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I got to see my daughter because I had,
Yeah.
I had high blood pressure with
Yes.
my daughter, my first. And so I got to, I think it's 16 weeks I got to see her. And then we had our anatomy scan. And yeah, you just
Mhm.
get these scans.
Yes.
So it's not fun, but that part's fun.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as long as it's all going well, it feels, like, really nice because you're like, "Oh, I get to see her. I get to," just that part was really nice, and so, yeah, that was kind of the journey, and then she was getting, like, pretty big, and they were like, "Okay, so," and I was just feeling really big and, like, just uncomfortable, and I'm, like, a pretty short person, so I was like, "Oh, I feel like she's taking up, like, all the space in my body,"
Yeah.
and so they were like, "Okay, we're gonna, kinda keep an eye on things and potentially, schedule an induction for maybe, like, 38 weeks, like, we'll kinda see." So, they ended up scheduling it for 37 weeks,
And was
and
that because of the gestational diabetes or like a mix of a couple things? Because at that point, they're monitoring doing like non-stress
right.
tests.
Yes,
So
so
there was probably some other things they were seeing, maybe.
yeah, the biggest thing they were seeing was just she was getting really big. So,
Okay.
like, even, like, her head circumference, like, they were just seeing, like, she's getting really big, and everything else was actually really good, like, this gestational diabetes, it was, I was keeping it, pretty well monitored, and even the stress test, like, everything was going really well, her heart rate, like, fluids, everything was good, but they were like, especially, at the time we were planning for a vaginal delivery,
Yep.
and so they were like, "Well, just we'll get you in for your induction, and, like, that's what we're gonna do," and I was like, "Okay," and I have to say, even though my mom is in this world, I was very much like, "I don't have a plan, I just want to be good, I want my baby to be good, like, I don't care," I was like,
Yeah.
"I just can't I
Which I
don't
think
wanna
is such a
stress
good
about this."
mindset to have because some things are so out of our control.
Right.
I think a lot of times they are. I don't know if there's anyone's birth plan that goes perfectly to plan. Maybe, but I don't think
It's
it goes
rare.
100%. Yeah, always
Yeah,
perfect.
and I think, one, knowing that, like, you can't plan everything, and also just knowing that, kinda having that in my practice of, like, nothing is in my control about this, like, there's only so much I can do, and so that's kind of what I went with,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad I did because it didn't go any way that I thought it would.
So with the induction, um, I mean, I went in for an induction and they just started, hooking me up and then just started giving me, I think I had like Cytotec,
Yeah,
Cervidil. What was your process like?
yes. So, it sounds like it was similar. So we went in, like, really early in the morning, and then they hooked me up to everything, um, and I wanna say it was Cytotec, and I don't know if they did the Pitocin right away, but eventually
Yeah.
Pitocin to, like, start the contractions.
Mhm.
Um,
Nothing worked for me, so I have no idea how
yeah.
it's supposed to
Oh,
work.
didn't work
I
for
tell
me either.
everyone I never even got to a 1. Um,
Yeah.
and they
It
tried for hours and who knows why,
yeah.
could be a lot of different reasons, but the Pitocin didn't they did Pitocin last for me and it didn't do anything. They couldn't
Yeah.
even break my water. And then I was like, I'm exhausted. Just
Mhm.
please get her out.
Yes. No, when I was listening to your story, it felt so similar because it was like, we've been here for so long,
Yeah.
like, let's just get this moving, like,
Yeah,
let's
like, I just didn't even feel like me anymore. I was like
yeah.
and I had the high blood pressure, and they had me
Mhm.
on a mag drip, and anyone that's experienced a mag drip, I was so and I didn't even realize I felt it until they took me off the mag, but I was
Ugh,
so drowsy and, like, my eyes were heavy, and I just felt horrible.
yeah.
And so that on top of everything else, and you're like, "Okay, just because this stuff isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing doesn't mean that it's not having an effect on my body in other
Right.
ways." Um, so yeah, it was I mean, I'm here, I'm healthy, my daughter's here. I'm like, if I had to experience it again, I would,
Mhm.
but same, it wasn't my ideal it wasn't what I thought labor would be like. But
Right.
it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so at what point? Because did you have a C-section?
Yes. So,
So at
it
what point was
was
that kind of like the decision?
so I think they held off for so long. Because everything was totally fine with my, like, blood sugar levels, her heart rate was great, like, everything, you know, was just basically taking a really long time, and she just wasn't progressing,
Yeah.
um, and so I got to 8 centimeters dilated,
Okay.
but that was after, like, 56 hours
Oh
of
my gosh.
induced labor. And so they were like, she's just not going into the position that she needs to be in." And I was like, "Okay." Like, and we had tried, I don't know if you were doing, like, the peanut, like, they're moving you around and doing all this
They
stuff.
just because I wasn't dilating at all, like, they just were I was just laying there. I think, like,
Yeah.
one nurse turned me around, was, like, positioning me and, like, who knows, maybe they were supposed to be moving me around and they weren't, but, um, yeah, they weren't really doing much.
Yeah.
So,
So, yeah, I think that when they realized, like, okay, like, you're dilating, you're finally, and everybody's okay, but I can't continue to be in labor for this long without her moving. So that's finally when they were like, "Let's do a C-section," and I was like, "Great. Could have
yeah.
done this hours ago."
Yeah,
Like,
we could have been in the mommy and baby side healing
yeah.
already.
So, I remember they were like, "Okay, we'll probably do it," like, I think it was, like, around 3 o'clock, and it's like, "Great, I can't wait to be done with this," because it was just, like you said, exhausting,
Yeah, you're just sitting
and
there and you can't eat, you can't drink, and, I
yeah,
almost forgot what outside air felt like by the
yeah,
time I left the hospital because I was in there for, like,
yes.
6 days, and, like, my
Gosh.
poor husband, he was like, "I'm gonna go for a walk," like, he's just, like he was not enjoying it, and
Yeah,
not because he was sitting there, it was, like, just watching me not be in a good place,
yeah.
it was just frustrating for him, and I don't think he knew how to, like, express that. He
Oh,
wasn't gonna,
yeah.
like, sit there and complain to me.
Right. No, but it does
Um,
take a toll on them too, and that was the other thing, like, I didn't really know anything different because it's my first time, but
yeah.
we weren't allowed to go anywhere because of COVID, like,
Oh, yeah, so he
protocol.
probably couldn't even leave the room.
Couldn't even leave the room, and, like, we weren't allowed to have anyone else there, it was I I felt very lucky because had it been this was July of 2020, so had it been, like, a month earlier, I don't think he would have even been able to
Oh
be
my
there,
gosh.
so I was like, "At least, at least he's here,"
Yeah.
but yeah, so we were just like, "Okay, great, we'll do the C-section, then we'll be able to finally, like, get out of here," Just
Mhm.
like you said, it's like, I don't remember what outside is like anymore. So,
Yep. Literally.
yeah. So then I remember going into, get my C-section and everyone was, like, really positive. Like, everyone was in a great mood, and that was really nice. So I was like, "Okay," because I was terrified. I mean, I had already had the epidural,
Mhm.
but they did a spinal so that I
Okay.
for sure wouldn't feel anything, because by that time, like, the epidural had worn off, like, a couple times.
I don't
So,
even know. It's such a good question. I never asked because they gave me
yeah,
my epidural, but I don't know, like, maybe it lasted and then they just continued that throughout my surgery.
they
Because I
might
just
have
remember them when they did your spinal, did they have to, like, reinsert a needle or just
yes, because it was almost a similar procedure to, like, sitting
Yep,
for the
and
epidural.
not having to move.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
they didn't have me redo it, so I must have just kept my epidural.
yeah,
But
that's possible.
yeah, but it was definitely I know the feeling of being scared. I think I passed out. I honestly
Mhm.
haven't asked my doctor the details because I'm like, I'm gonna have another C-section
Right.
and I don't wanna know,
Yeah.
um, as long as he's aware of it. But I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I passed out when I was like, "Oh, when are we gonna do the surgery?" They're like, "Now." And I think, like, I just, like, they gave my husband, like, scrubs, and they're like, "You need to change," and then I think they woke me up with, like, smelling salts, and I was like,
Wow.
"Whoa, like, am I okay?" I remember, like, being like, "Am I okay?" And that was before we were in the surgery room. So it's overwhelming for your body, and once again,
Yeah.
after being in labor for how long, all these medications, we're not eating. I mean, when you're not eating, I don't feel myself when I don't eat on
Oh,
a day to
yeah.
day. So, like, when you're sitting there, yes, they're giving you, like, fluids, but still.
Right.
Um, so were you in the surgery room when you were kinda, like, really nervous?
I was really nervous, and then they did as I remember laying down, and do I don't know if it was the same for you, but I've heard of other women experiencing this too, where you're shaky, like, have the shakes, if
I
that
don't even
makes
remember.
sense. Like,
I think they might have
shivering
given me
almost.
something to, like,
Oh,
kind of I was awake, but, like, make me really drowsy.
yeah.
Um, Once again, I am gonna ask my doctor that because whatever they gave me, I don't want again. I
Yeah.
would like to be a little more present, than I
Right.
was. So I think they gave me, I don't know, epinephrine or something. I don't know.
Oh,
I could be completely lying, but I think we looked at like we were looking at all the different drugs that were given to me. And I
right.
think we saw like epinephrine on there and we were like, what?
Mm, yeah.
Um, but they definitely gave me something to make me really relaxed.
Yeah.
Um, but then I wasn't really like, I don't remember hearing them talk. I
Yeah.
don't know if you have any memory of this, but like my husband's like, oh yeah, when I came in, they were super positive as well. They were talking and then they were like naming different tools as they were doing it. I'm like, I didn't hear any of this, but I
You
do
must
remember
have
hearing
been
my daughter cry.
oh. Oh, yeah.
I do remember that. I do remember them being like, okay, like her left shoulder's out. She has some hair. And then she was crying. And then like I felt like, I don't know. I'm happy I remember that part, but
Yeah.
that is all I remember.
Mhm.
So you were really shaky and like, yeah, your arms are like beside you. It's kind of like
Yes,
traumatic when you really
it is.
say it out loud.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I remember that, and I remember kind of like what you said, like, I remember hearing them talk and say, like, "You're gonna feel a lot of pressure like an elephant sitting on you." And I was like, "I've never had an elephant sit on me, so I don't really know, like,
yeah,
what that's gonna be like, but okay." And so I do remember, like, a lot of pressure, like, I couldn't
pressure.
feel pain, but I felt the pressure of her,
Uh
like,
huh.
coming out, and yeah, I remember seeing her, and at first, she, I guess, was a little blue, but then she was totally fine, so I remember the NICU coming and, like, looking at her, and then they never actually had to bring her up, and then I remember them, like, bringing her to me, and we have, like, a couple of pictures together.
Mm-hmm.
It's so bizarre to see, but I just remember
Was your
being like
husband in surgery with you?
he was, yeah,
Okay, good.
and he was
That's
like
nice.
it's funny because he's like, "It was so overwhelming, like, I was so scared because you were shaking," and then, like, just it was a lot,
It's hard
and,
for them. I feel
it
like no one talks
is.
about how hard
No.
it is for the men,
Yeah.
or whoever has to sit in, like, I think my mom
Yeah.
sat in on my aunt's C-sections and, I'm sure it's super scary, because you don't know what can occur.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah.
so then once she was out, she didn't have to go to NICU. How
Yes.
did you heal up?
So, when she came out, I guess what was happening, which obviously there's still, like, the curtain up, so I couldn't
Yeah.
see anything, but they were concerned because my uterus, just because of, like, all of the labor, they called it, like, a lazy uterus, so it wasn't contracting, and so it kept filling up with blood, and so I lost a lot of blood, like, twice as much as you're normally, because you do lose blood in C-sections, but
Oh, yeah.
I guess it was just, like, a lot more, so they ended up putting, it's a balloon that they put in there to basically fill it up so that it doesn't keep filling up with blood,
Okay.
so they had to put that in there, and eventually my uterus started working again, and again, like I said, I feel very grateful that I was just in my own little world because after, you know, kind of downloading my mom about everything that was happening, she's like, she was like, "That's terrifying." And I was like, "Yeah, thinking back, it is." But at the time, I was just like, "Yeah, do what you have to do, you know?"
It's the thoughts after it all occurs that
Right.
you have to sit with, and the longer you sit with them and you think about them, you start to feel the trauma.
Right,
It's weird
exactly.
how that happens, because similar I mean, I didn't have that happen, but like I said, I don't remember my C-section.
Right.
I look at the pictures and I'm like my husband's like, "Oh, we have pictures." I'm like, "We do?" He's like, "Yeah, you don't remember taking them?" I'm like, no." And like, sure enough, like if I zoom in, I'm like, I look high as a kite. Like my
Mhm.
eyes were like bloodshot red.
Right.
I look so out of it. And it's really sad. But like I said, I'm just very happy that I was safe. I trust my doctor with my whole life.
Yeah.
And my daughter was safe because she was born at 37 weeks and we didn't need to have any NICU,
Right.
um, experience either. She was good. Um, but it made me for a while sit with, do I want more kids? Um, and then on top of that, like I had blood pressure. So I don't know how your healing journey went, but like my blood pressure, I thought was going to be gone
Mhm.
once I had my daughter. Went to my week checkup and my blood pressure was like 160 over 90. And my doctor's
Mm.
like, "Are you good?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Your blood pressure says otherwise. Is it because
Yeah.
you're here? Like, have you tracked this at
Right.
home?" And I'm like, "No." And so, going from being healthy, here, you were 28 in Nashville, just having the time of your life to now being in this operating room. It's a lot. That transition is so much to process.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and it's a beautiful journey. But a lot to process. And so after you talked to your mom about this and you had your baby girl at home, is that kind of what you went through was kind of reprocessing everything from like gestational diabetes, COVID and you not being able to have your mom there.
Mhm.
Is that kind of what happened? And did you then experience postpartum anxiety and depression?
So, it's interesting because when I reflect on it, it's, you know, similar to what you said, where you're just kind of like going through the motions of everything. Like our brain, and I talk about this a lot with clients too, where we're in this like survival mode.
Yeah.
And when we're in that, our brain is not like, let's process the trauma we went through. Cause you're just like treading water at this point. You're like, I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I
Yeah.
don't have like the space or even I don't feel safe enough in my body or like in my environment to like process this yet because, for me it was like my body's trying to like heal and from the C-section and like get more blood too
Yeah.
and do all of that and like regulate and then, we're also like up at all hours with a newborn and it was also trying to, like, produce milk at the time it was just all of that stuff at once,
Yeah.
so, for me, and for a lot of the women I talk to, it's like that time is, like, such a blur. I don't even I mean, I remember it, but in a way where I'm like, I wasn't that present, if that makes sense.
No, that makes complete sense. Yeah, I don't know, and I'm not jumping away from it, but now, like, if I could talk to myself, I would say, like, give yourself more credit and more grace than you're giving
Yes.
yourself, and just trust your body because I was so scared of my body, of what
Mhm.
with the high blood pressure and then needing a C-section, part of me at first felt like failed. I'm like, "Ugh, I didn't have a vaginal birth." But then I was like, "No, you know what? My mom had C-sections. I'm so thankful for them." Like, you know, I'm so thankful and I healed very well. But yeah, like I did the breastfeeding as well. I'm going to be honest, it was really hard. My milk did not come in the way it was supposed to. Like, I didn't
No,
have that.
same.
I see these women that are pumping like the gold milk before, like at 38 weeks, 39 weeks before they even have their baby. I'm like, I don't remember any gold milk. I remember
Mhm.
like just trying to like get my boobs to produce anything.
Right.
Um, and I did breastfeed for 9 months. I pumped and breastfed. But I felt like I wasn't kind to myself. I was not allowing myself to heal from what my body experienced and allowing my hormones to adjust. I was just like, no, I have to breastfeed. And I didn't need to. At the end of the day, I'm like, my mom's like, why are you doing this to yourself? You went through so
Yeah.
much. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I have to. I feel like I'm going to be a failure if not, and my mom's like, you're not a failure. Like just feed your daughter. But this time around, I'm like, we'll see how it goes. And I'm going to make decisions then based on what happens. If I feel
Mhm.
strong enough to take care of my daughter, my body's healing, to breastfeed, then I'll breastfeed. If not, I don't need to. Um, so I'm trying to give myself more grace. And I don't know, how you feel or when you're talking to clients, what you suggest to them, but that is a big part for me. Because yeah, I just felt like I was in survival mode and I was just treading water
Yeah.
for months. Like,
Mhm.
and then I was like scared because I wasn't sleeping. So then like your body's not getting the rest and then your body's working so hard to heal and also try to produce and regulate. Like there's so many things going on.
There's so much going on. It is the biggest hormonal shift our body will ever go through, and we're kind of and then on top of that, whether you delivered vaginally or you had a C-section, like, it's traumatic what your body goes through, and to then be like, "Okay, you got this." Like, "Don't go take care of a baby." It's
Oh,
a
it's so
lot.
hard. It's so,
Yeah.
so hard. And I don't think there's a lot of tools that can honestly prepare you
No.
for it. You can read, you can watch videos. Um, yeah, I don't know how my husband and I survived. And I often think about that now. I'm like, okay, we did it once, we'll be okay.
Mhm.
Um, but there's just so many like you're also like wanting to live your life regular as well. So you're also like exhausted, healing, hormones are regulating, up hours, all hours of the night, pumping, breastfeeding, and then you're like, "Oh, let's go to dinner."
Right.
No. Like, I told my husband, I'm like, "I am not traveling for months after we have this next baby." Like, there's so many different things now, like, and I think
Mhm.
that's the beauty of not being a first time mom. Like, there's beauty
Right.
in it no matter what, because, like, you learn so much about yourself. You learn boundaries that you need to have for yourself. You come together with your husband or, if you don't have a husband and whoever your support system is, you come together and you find what works.
Mhm.
And there's beauty in that journey. Although it's hard, there is beauty in it.
Yes.
Um, so for you, like, what was that journey like? Because that journey obviously led you into the career that you're in today and helping
Yeah.
women.
Mhm. So, it's interesting, things kind of took a bit of a turn after, um, we brought her home, and my mom luckily so we were still in Nashville at the time, and so my mom met us, she, came all the way from Florida and, met us at our house and was able to spend 2 weeks with us, and it was so amazing having her there 'cause, recovering from a surgery and, figuring
Yep.
out especially, so for breastfeeding, for me, I was trying so hard and same thing, my mom was like, "What? Like, it's okay,
Yep.
it's okay. Your body is recovering." And even as a mental health professional, I was like, "Why am I putting so much pressure on this?" Like, there's just so much societal pressure and just you feel like, "Oh, I'm supposed to do this," but it ended up being really difficult, so I ended up pumping for 12 weeks, and I was like that was another part of my chapter, but I had to be like, "That's okay. That is
Yep.
plenty of weeks to do that." But and she was
Plenty.
healthy, she was great, but so, yeah, so my mom, was there, stayed with us for a couple weeks, it was amazing, and then, we talked about, this kind of being triggering for our partners, so my partner, again, he was my, boyfriend at the time, now my husband, but he when we met was kind of dealing with his sobriety journey, and so when we met, he was not drinking or anything, and then there would be times when he would, and I think, when you're young, you're in your 20s and you're with someone, you're like, "Okay, well, that's fi" drinking is normal or, things come up, and I think this was really triggering for him, the whole experience, the traumatic birth, everything, and I honestly was in my own world with my newborn, and
Mhm.
so like it was definitely something for him to deal with. And so when my mom left, she went back to Florida, I kind of realized like, oh, this is not good. Like he, was going through it and I couldn't be there for him. And I was
Mhm.
like, if this is what you're going to be doing, like I can't be a part of this and I have to like take care of my daughter. And so we left. So I actually called my mom and I was like, "Hey mom, can you actually come back and get me?" Like so I decided I was like, you have to decide to do this for yourself. I can't like I have to take care of my baby, This is a
Yeah.
newborn
Like, you didn't have
and
the capacity to even try
no.
to understand it. And
Right.
it's
And
rough because, I think when you're talking to this, I'm like, I don't think I ever once looked at my husband being like, "Are you good?"
right.
It's like it's a selfish part of life at that time. It's so sensitive.
Mhm.
And I think our hormones also play a big role in that. Like, I don't know
Oh,
if our hormones
huge.
even allow us to like look outwards and be like, "How is everyone doing?" Like,
Right.
we just have to be like, am I okay? And is my
Exactly.
baby okay? For
Yeah.
however long you need to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, throughout our relationship, which again was like not super long, so it it was kind of like, "Oh, well, I can deal with this or I can be there for him." And like you said, you can't at that time, right? Like
Yeah.
I have to take care of me, I have to take care of my baby. Like this is not the environment that I want to raise a baby in.
Mhm.
And I kind of left that up to him and I went and lived with my mom in Florida for, I think it was 4 weeks. And it was a struggle. Like it was very, very hard. Luckily, I have her, like, she's the best support system. But, during that time, I was like, am I going to be a single mom? Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel very grateful that he has been sober ever since. It's been 5.5 years now that he's
That's
been
amazing.
sober.
So it really kind of was eye-opening for him. He was like,
Oh, yeah.
"Oh, she left."
Yeah, this is real. Like,
Yeah.
because I think, when you're in a relationship, it's kind of back and forth, and you're like, oh, like, especially for me in my 20s, I was like, well, it's fine. Or like, you go back and forth, but this was
You
very
allow
real.
things that,
Yeah,
yeah, you otherwise wouldn't. Um,
exactly.
and it's not that you don't want to, you can't. And yeah,
No.
especially with a newborn. So I really
Yeah.
respect you for that decision. And
Thank you.
obviously that's amazing that, your husband like just knew like, wait, I can't lose this.
Right.
Which is really great. And it's good that he, has now been sober. I mean, that's
Yeah.
5.5 years is a really long time, and that's incredible.
Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that, but it also, you know, it created this very difficult postpartum journey. So, like being away from him for 4 weeks, and it ended up being longer because we moved ultimately to St. Pete because I was like, well, I've got to be near my support system. Like, I was so happy that he decided to do that, but at the same time, it was the beginning stages, and I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I've gotta make sure we've got our support system in case anything ever does happen, and he understood, and so that's
Mhm.
kind of when we made our journey back. And Florida, oh, Florida, we were one of those states where it was like, "Is it a pandemic? I'm not sure," like and, like,
I
everyone
know
was
a lot of people were
outside.
going to Florida during that time. A lot of
Yeah.
people were buying homes during that time in
Yes.
Florida. Like, it totally changed, I feel
Yes.
like, the atmosphere for a little while, I'm sure.
Yeah, so which honestly, thinking about it from, like, a postpartum aspect, I was, like, very grateful for
Mhm.
because I was like, I need some normalcy. I need to go for a walk with my baby. I need to like go, and do
And
things like
sunshine helps. Like
sunshine helps so much.
the
Yes.
sun just you don't realize it until you don't have it, and then you see it again and
Yep.
you're like, "Wow, that feels good."
Yeah. And when it's interesting, because like, you're going through all of this, or, like, for me, I was going through all of this, and it was a difficult time, but that's also when I started doing the education for, like, postpartum and perinatal mental health, because I don't know what drove me to do that, but I was like, "Yeah, I wanna do these certifications. I wanna do all of these things." While I have a newborn, but I was just
Do
like,
you
I'm in
almost
it.
do you almost feel like, yeah, like you were experiencing it and so it was gonna help you learn
Absolutely. Yeah.
and, like, understand your journey a little more, and then on
Mhm.
top of it, you would then get to take that and help other women that are
Yeah.
going through it.
Oh, yeah. Selfishly, I
'Cause
was
I
like
think that way. Like, hello, the podcast. That's why the podcast is here. I'm like, I wanna learn, I wanna hear stories, like, I wanna
Yes.
connect with women, and that's kinda where, like, mom mode started.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like, I was just like, selfishly, I wanna learn more about this because at the time, and still now, I feel like nobody talks about it enough, like, this huge shift that we go through.
I feel like you hear, like, postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression, but you don't hear the stories and you don't hear the trenches, and
Mhm.
a part of that is, like, I feel like when women are in it, they don't wanna talk about it unless it's maybe with, like, a therapist, like, they're
Yeah.
almost ashamed or embarrassed or they feel like they're gonna be misunderstood. And then also, like, then after you're out of it, it's like, "Oh, I'm out of it. I survived." And then it's like, I don't wanna go back and talk deeply about it,
Right.
um, on the record at least. You know what I mean? To
Right.
where, like, you're really and then, you also, like, don't wanna selfishly, like, scare other moms.
Mhm.
Um, but, because I think about it and I'm like, "Wow, if I heard someone talk about a really traumatic experience," like, when I was pregnant, I was trying to avoid
Right.
any of that, which now I'm pregnant again. But I'm just trying to like strengthen through it. I'm like, okay, it's not my story. I'm listening to a story. It's not my
Yes.
journey. But I stayed away from things. So,
Yeah.
I feel like at the same time you're like, okay, well, if you're new to pregnancy, you don't know what you're getting into and then you're not looking for the negative stories and then that's how it also happens. But
Mhm.
it is nice to listen to once you've been through it because then you realize you're not alone. And I think that's
Oh, yeah.
where it's so important to have stories like yourself, yours and what you do in your career, like to have therapists out there that specialize in this. It's so important.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't even for me, like, finding my own therapist because, I mean, I think every therapist should have a therapist too, but, it was so important for me to see someone who was also a mom
Hmm.
and just someone where not that that's necessary, but just I was like, "I just wanna know that you get it without me having to, like, explain all these little nuances to you," and I
Yeah.
know everyone has such a different experience, but we still, like, get that from each other,
Hmm.
where it's like, "Oh my gosh, yes," like, as opposed to, like, 27-year-old me where you could have told me anything about motherhood, but I still wouldn't have gotten it on the same level, you
Nope.
know?
Nope. I tell my friends that had kids before me, I'm like, I did not understand. And I am
Mhm.
so sorry. Like, I didn't reach out to them. I didn't check in on them. I wasn't asking how their kids were. I had no idea. My own mom, I looked at my mom differently, my grandma differently. My grandma has 7 kids. I'm like, you're a
Wow.
strong woman for having
Yes.
7 kids. And she had her first when she was 19. I mean, that was very
Gosh.
common, I feel like,
Yeah. Yeah.
back then, but, I'm just like, wow. Um, wow. It just like your life is forever changed,
Mhm.
when you become a mom, whether you're a mom of 1 or a mom of 10.
Yeah.
Just going through it once is enough to kind of change your lens on life,
Yeah.
um, in a lot of different ways, I feel like.
Mhm. It changes everything. I mean, it changes, like, just the life that you had, the life that you want for yourself and your family. It also changes, like, relationships so much.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. You know, I feel like my husband and I, like, it also takes time because my daughter's 2.5 now, and even during those first 2.5 years, like, I feel like now we've talked about how our priorities need to shift and how, like,
Mhm.
we want our family what we wanna prioritize moving forward and, like, what we want to do and versus what we don't wanna do. And I think that just comes with, like, living each day to day
Mhm.
or, like, having experiences, you know, like, we've traveled with her so much, and I'm like, there's an age to travel with kids, and then there's an age that you don't travel with kids, and because you're spending all this money and you're like, "Oh, I'm just exhausted." Um,
Mhm.
there's just so many different things, and then I don't know, time for each other, that's super important.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times when my husband and I it's shameful, but, like, we just scroll on our phones, and I'm
Mhm.
like, "Maybe we should, like, have, like, a night set aside where, like, we don't do that,"
Yeah.
and then make it 2 days a night, 2 weeks, 2
Right.
days a week. Um, but yeah, you don't realize and even
Yeah.
dates,
Oh
going on
gosh.
dates. I mean, it's rare that we go on dates. I don't know how you and your husband are, but I'm like, even the dates are different because 'cause you're, like, tired from the day, and then you, like, know that you have to wake up early and tend to these little babies.
Mhm.
Or kids in general. I mean, they have so much energy. So it doesn't matter if my daughter's 2 and your daughter's 5, it's still the same
So
job, you
much.
know?
Yeah.
It's still the same hat that we have to wake up to and wear. When you got your certifications, like how did you transition to starting your own practice? And how did you start feeling then after going through these certifications with like your postpartum experience?
Yeah. So I remember I was just kind of like doing these, you know, like educational courses and everything. And I was just like learning so much and realized like, wow, like I get to learn all of this, but this isn't shared with like the general public, like
Mhm.
it was so interesting just how much like postpartum affects your mental health. And like
Yeah.
we know that it affects your hormones, but it's kind of similar to like when you track your cycle and you're like, oh, I'm just PMSing or I'm just this
Yeah.
or just that. And you're like, oh, my hormones are, and it's like, there's just so much more to it. And even recognizing like that, once you're done seeing the doctors after pregnancy, everything shifts to your baby and you get one 6-week follow up, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where that started for me. I was like, I feel like this needs more, like we need more care for us, like as moms.
Mhm.
And I don't know about you, but I don't think I've ever felt like I'm being honest when they ask me the questions of like, "How are you doing?" Or, at the doctor's office, like
Yep.
the
Yeah, like how
scales
they
that
have you
they
fill out that
give you.
sheet,
Yeah.
which I've had a lot of moms say that they've like lied.
Yeah.
And I would say like I wouldn't say I lied. I would just say like I didn't want to open that tunnel, like that
Mhm.
rabbit hole. Like, I'm good, you know. And who am I going to talk to a pediatrician? Because a lot of those I
Right.
remember it being at my pediatrician a few
Mhm.
times too. I'm like, why am I going to tell the pediatrician? Like, if I feel like I
Right.
need help, I'll reach out to someone. But like we're not,
Yeah.
oftentimes we don't, unless we already have someone lined up that we already talked to prior to pregnancy, I feel.
Yeah.
Um, because I definitely didn't reach out, but if it was kind of a part of our process, right? So like, oh, now you're gonna after you have the baby, it's important to talk to somebody. So now this is a part
Mhm.
of let's just say that it was like a part of it, right? Like a standard
Yeah.
practice. I would definitely be like, oh, I'm excited to talk to somebody,
Right. Because then it feels
you know?
normal. Like, because I think that
Yes.
is such a big thing. Like, we, one, I, a lot of times, like, we don't want to ask for help
Yep.
and, or we're just too overwhelmed to even like know where to start. And you feel like you're supposed to be doing like all of these things and you're supposed to have it just like with breastfeeding and just like with anything. So
Yep.
to say like, I'm actually not okay, it feels scary and maybe even
Yep.
like shameful. And even, I feel like I was much more open about it just because I'm familiar with it and just was like, it's been a year. I remember like it had been about a year after I had my daughter, and I was like, "I'm still not feeling okay." Like, I am
Mhm.
constantly overwhelmed and just, like, crying a lot, like, getting really upset at things, not having a lot of patience, and by that time, like, I felt like we had had more support, we were doing really well, like, it was not these external factors, I was like, "There's something happening for me,"
Mhm.
and luckily I knew because of the education, right? I was like, "Okay, this feels like postpartum depression." Like, I've given it
Yeah.
a lot of time, and I think that's where I am, and luckily, I had a great therapist, and my doctor, I felt like I could open up to her, which I think that's another thing is, like, finding a doctor that you can really open up to.
Yep.
And we were able to talk about, like, different medications and things like that. Because I was like, "I think I just need some help," and I've never taken medications before, so it felt very scary and new to me, but at the same time, I was like, "I owe this to myself, like, it's okay, this is okay, I don't have to be on this forever. If I need to,
Yeah.
I can, but it doesn't have to be, like, this is also just like a really big life shift, and maybe I just need a little bit of extra help. And I was on medication for a little over a year, and it was like one of the best things that I'd ever done because I realized like I can only get so far, like on my own and like with my support. And I felt very lucky and grateful that I got to do that. But there were you know, even though I'm in this, like, field of work, there were still people talking to me or, like, stigmas around medication, and I
Mhm.
wish there was just more, like, talk about it, and even, there are moms who are afraid because they're still breastfeeding or pumping, but there are medications that you can take while you're on that, or, like, not to kind of stigmatize it because it's something that can help if you're in that place.
Definitely. Um, and I appreciate you sharing that because I feel like, sometimes moms don't wanna share that because they feel
Mhm.
like, they are gonna be judged or they feel weak because they needed something, and it's like,
Right.
no, like, that's incredible. That is if you felt so not like yourself to then, even after a year, voice
Mhm.
that, like, "No, something's not right," like, that's amazing that you can take something that would just, like almost like I imagine like a bridge. Like, it crossed you
Right.
over to when you were good and your body
Yes.
naturally, like, um, was able to kinda take it from there.
Mhm.
And I mean, I never got on any medication, but I definitely feel like not to say that I needed it, but I definitely understand the irritable. Like, I
Mhm.
definitely was getting irritable, short fused. Um, I really just worked out. Like, I'd go to the gym. For me, that was kind of an outlet, but that's not
Yeah.
always easy for everyone. Like, my husband, like, that's what did it for me. Like, just like running. Like, I remember
Mhm.
one day I was like, I need to just run. And I'm not a runner, but he's like, okay. And I'm like, when she goes down, I'm just gonna go run outside with headphones on. And it was cold out. I think this was like 6 months into my postpartum actually. And it was still cold. It was like February or March. And we live in the Midwest, so it's cold. And I just like was running. And I felt like I was like leaving my postpartum behind. Like, when I was running, I was like, I hate running. Like, I used to look at runners and be like, how do people enjoy that? And here I was like running. I was like timing my mile. My first mile was like 13 minutes. I'm like so proud of myself and I'm like, this is so slow probably. Um, but that really helped me.
I
Like, I
love
don't know if I
that.
just needed to like exert, just like
Yeah.
almost like, oh my gosh, like this is a lot. And like the running just helped me. Um, but I would say that it took me a full 2 years to
Mhm.
feel myself again. Um,
Yes. Yeah, and I think
a
that's
year
not
didn't
really
do it.
no, I think that's not really talked about either, the fact that it's like I remember, I think around year 3 for me where I was like also I had been, like, off of medication for a little bit and, like, just, like, really began, like, doing the gym and just getting more into a routine and feeling like she was stable where she was with daycare, all the things and being like, "Oh, okay." Like, I'm starting to feel like
Life can get normal
myself.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
feel a little more freedom to be like, okay, wait, I'm still me
Mhm.
with now this beautiful child that we have in this life. And I'm beginning to balance what I once was able to balance that felt so hard. Like, I
Yeah.
remember bringing her home and being like, you have to feed them every 2 to 3 hours and change their diapers and they're crying and you have to hold them. Like, I mean, every baby's different. There's
Mhm.
colic. There's some babies that don't want to be put down at all. Like, my daughter wouldn't sleep unless it was in the dark in her crib or like in her bassinet. Like, it had to
Yeah.
be in a dark room. Like, I tried the whole like bright room, just lay her down. Nope. And actually, her first year of life, she wouldn't even sleep in the car. So if I was running an errand, it was like, oh my gosh, like I need to hurry up and get home because she's going to scream
Right.
until I literally get home and put her in her
Ugh.
crib. And that's challenging. You
Very.
don't, moms don't, m- every mom's experience is so different. But um, where was I going with this? Oh, so I was thinking to myself, like, how am I supposed to do the laundry? How am I supposed to clean? How am I? And you're like, then a little bit at a time, you start to get into your groove.
Mhm.
Um, and then sometimes you add another one into the mix.
Yeah.
So, um, I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, for us to have another baby. Because I feel like we're in such a good groove with my daughter Sailor. I'm like, we
Yeah.
got this. She naps once a day. We, have a routine and I'm like, okay, a baby's going to completely switch this up again. So, I'm sure I don't know if I'm sure you talk to moms that have
Mhm.
first time moms, second time there's probably so many different variations of moms that you talk to.
Yeah. So many different and I think that, like, that's so common where it's like, "Okay, I'm finally feeling like we're in a good place and everything."
Yeah.
And so part of you, is like, "Okay, great, we can, like, have our second," or, if that's what you wanna do. And then the other part of you is like, "Wait, but we are in such a good place, like, how is
Yeah.
that gonna affect us?" And there's also, like, all the anxiety, like, if, you had a traumatic birth or, like, preeclampsia or gestational
Yep.
diabetes where it's like, that's a real fear too,
Yep.
and it brings up a lot, and it can be really scary, and so, like, being able to, like, talk about, like, any fears or, like, the anxiety that comes with that.
Yeah. And I think honestly, like, talking to somebody could definitely help with that. And then just hearing, I would say that like in a way, like as distracting as Instagram and the internet can be, like having a mom community
Yeah.
on and like really I see most of my stuff on my mom mode. Like my personal Instagram page, like I don't see as much mom content. My mom mode
Mhm.
Instagram is like all moms.
Mhm.
And you hear so many stories about moms being like, you know, I am scared to get pregnant again, but then like they do. And then, they'll have like, I always like when moms do like questions, like where someone
Yeah.
can do like a Q and A and like so many moms that had something traumatic happen, people are like, aren't you scared again? And they're like, I am, but like, I don't want to let the fear stop me because what if this can be so different? Or
Yes.
I already experienced it and I'm here. Like, I don't want that to hinder me from doing it again. And honestly, it's seeing that multiple times that got me to a point and just healing, um,
Yeah.
to be like, "Okay, I think I can do it again."
Mhm.
Um, and I've been pretty good, but I just try to stay away from those negative thoughts,
Yeah.
mainly. But, I've also met moms that, like, they don't wanna have any more babies, and that's fine too.
Mhm.
Like, I was in a place for a very long time where I was like, "This might be our only baby," and that is totally okay. I'm just happy she's here.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, it's different for everyone, and I think no matter what anyone whatever your journey is like, it's your journey to experience, to have, and to enjoy. Um, with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, what are some indicators, like, for women listening,
Yeah.
that, like, maybe they're experiencing that? Like, how do you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's so difficult to know kind of like what's that difference with like, you hear of baby blues, things like that. Like, and I would say like those first few months, like, knowing that like, okay, this is a lot, this
Mhm,
is, I'm not sleeping the same. Like, I'm really overwhelmed. Like, my whole life has changed. Right.
mhm,
And so sometimes it can take a while to recognize like, is this postpartum depression? Is this just like my life completely changing? Like, what is this? And so being able to recognize like how you felt pre-baby and like how you're feeling now. So that could look like assessing. So, the form that they give you, like at the
mhm,
pediatrician or like at your doctor's office. Sometimes it really is assessing like where where is this going a little bit higher? Like, okay, I'm not sleeping. Is that because my baby is up, every 1 or 2 hours? Or am I noticing that I can't actually fall asleep? And am I not napping while baby is napping because I need to clean this or do this, or maybe baby isn't napping? Or am I so nervous and scared that I like can't fall asleep? So like really being able to assess like where is this coming from? And
mhm,
sometimes that means like talking it through with your therapist or even your doctor. Um, and then like that I think a lot of times moms don't realize like that irritation or even like postpartum rage, they call it. Like
mhm,
that's real. You notice yourself just getting like really angry or like you notice yourself just getting in these like spells where you just can't stop crying or
yep,
you don't even know why you're feeling the way you feel. So just things that really are like, okay, this isn't how I felt before, or like this doesn't feel right for me. And,
mhm.
sometimes you hear people say like, oh, you're not sleeping, like that's normal, right? Like, and
I
so,
was gonna say, I don't wanna interrupt you, but I
yeah.
feel like so many times when you explain things to, like, a family member, they're like, "Oh, that's normal." And,
Hmm.
like, then you're like, "Oh, okay, it's normal." And then, like, that's when you, like, forget.
Hmm.
So I think that's also something that, like, is so important. It's like, sometimes you might need to not look go not saying you shouldn't talk to your family about it, but sometimes it's like that's always the answer I got was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, honey, it's normal." And I'm
Hmm.
like, "Okay, no, this doesn't feel normal."
Right.
Um,
Exactly. And like, it's really like a positive intention, right? Like they want to tell you, it's their
yes.
way of saying like, don't worry about it, right?
Yep.
Like, when in reality, sometimes we need the validation of like, that's not normal. And like what you're feeling is a lot. And like you do need extra support. And whether that is like, therapy, maybe it's also medication. Like it doesn't have to be, but
Mhm.
I don't know that there's ever a time where like processing your feelings could ever hurt. I mean, obviously doing it in a safe space where you're comfortable, where you trust the person,
I was gonna say, like, I
but
almost feel like bringing up one of those forms on your computer, like, if you really feel like you're not in a good spot potentially, like, and honestly answer it to yourself.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
"Okay, if I was at a pediatrician or if I was at my doctor, maybe I would answer it this way. But
Mhm.
I'm home, no one knows how I'm answering this, like, where am I actually on here?"
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then just, like, really being honest with yourself, as honest as you can be in that moment of
Mhm.
confusion and exhaustion. Like, maybe I need to reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
For like you, like, do you work remotely with clients
Yeah.
everywhere? Are you able to only talk to people that are in Florida? Like, how does that work for your practice? And then, like, is there tools? Like, what kind of tools do you provide moms with that are
Yeah.
experiencing this?
So for my practice, I work virtually with moms in Florida, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Tennessee. So I'm licensed in those states. And then there's, I don't know if you've heard of it, but Postpartum Support International. They're amazing. They have so many different resources. They offer free support groups like birth trauma groups, postpartum support groups,
I haven't
medical
heard of
moms
them.
group. Oh, they're
I'll have to add
amazing.
that, in our
Yeah,
description. I'll definitely add that because I feel like that's really important. Because I was gonna ask, like, okay, none of those states I'm in,
right.
so for those moms who aren't in any of those, but it's awesome that you could practice in 4 different states.
Yeah. So
Like, yeah,
there
like, where would you go? That
yeah.
was gonna be my next question.
That website is great because, it can take you to a list of providers who practice, like, perinatal mental health. Some of them are even, like, have full certifications, so, like, are PMHC, perinatal mental health, um, certified, and then it's a great place just for resources. Also, like, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, like, I know for a lot of moms, like, you're up at night breastfeeding or pumping, and it feels really isolating. There are
Mhm.
numbers that you can call or text, and you have support right there. So,
Oh, that's awesome.
knowing that you're not alone with that because, I mean, I specialize in, like, postpartum anxiety and depression and everything, but there's also postpartum OCD, postpartum psychosis. There's a lot that comes up after
Yeah.
having a baby. So it's really nice to like have those resources available. That's like one of my biggest resources there. But um, also, because I talk with moms so much that are either like planning for postpartum or a lot of the times we tackle these things like while they're already postpartum. I created this workbook that talks about like planning for postpartum. And so it goes into like conversations you can have with your partner, support system about like, how do we want, birth to go? Like, not necessarily a birth plan, but this is what I'm expecting from you. Like these are kind of the boundaries that I'd like to set. Even talking about like, who do we want in the room with us? Who do we want in the waiting room? How do I feel about like visitors coming after I have the baby? And like you said, like traveling, even, like
Yeah.
just kind of getting on the same page because sometimes you do talk about that, but a lot of times you don't even realize it until afterwards when you're like, "Oh, I really didn't want people to come over right away."
I was gonna say, like, and it's sad then because you have these moments where, like, not that you feel like they're stripped away from you, but like, yeah, if you don't want visitors, and like, I was fine having visitors, but like,
Yeah,
what if my husband and I weren't on the same page, or what if I didn't, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, come on in," and like,
right.
you're in this state where you're like, I didn't want anybody here. Like, you almost feel like it sucks to say this, but like, you remember that.
Yeah, you
It's like
do.
you remember that, like, so yeah, I think it's really important to have those, and it's just something fun to do too. Like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're a new parent, like, to really just see, talk through all these things that you don't even think you need to talk through.
Yeah, and maybe,
Um,
like, you did have that experience with your first child, and so you're like, "I would like to have a different
yeah.
postpartum experience with my second baby or third baby," and, it kinda just goes through those different scenarios. It even talks about, a lot of emotional stuff, but also logistics, like, who's doing the dishes? Like, who
Very true.
is getting up, like, at what point? And, like, what are our expectations? And, am I gonna be the one doing that? Like, and even, when I think of visitors, something that comes up a lot in like, with clients is when visitors come, like, do you want them to hold the baby while you do things, or do you want them to do things while you hold the baby?
That's so true.
So, like, I hear a lot where you're like, "Oh, my in-laws came over," or something like that, and, like, nobody is helping me with the dishes, and so I just have to hand over my baby and do the dishes, and it's
Yeah.
like, "No," you
I feel
know?
like that's, like, how it was. Like, I wanted to do things
Yeah.
before, because I didn't wanna, like, inconvenience, but now I'm like, I'll hold the baby, I'm gonna sit, if you
Yeah.
don't mind." Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, not that I would ever be demanding of anyone to do anything in my home, but if I had it my way, I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, yeah, you just realize different things as you go through it, and
Mhm.
think back. But that's awesome. So where can people find that book? And is it
Yeah.
an ebook? Is it a
It's an
paperback?
ebook.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
it's like a fillable PDF workbook, so you can print it if you want to, or you can just kind of type in it, and it's just, like, great to, like, get these different conversations started, and even if, you just want it for you to start thinking about that, like
Yeah.
and you can if you already have a therapist, like, bring it to your therapist, so it's just a helpful resource to have.
Yeah, I love that. And that's on is it on your website?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Zen Family Therapy, but with an X, so XEN Family Therapy, and, my website is also zenfamilytherapy.com.
And
Um,
I'll add that all into
yeah,
the description as well. So that way
perfect.
it's easy to access.
Yeah.
Well, I've enjoyed talking to you so much. I really appreciate all that you've shared. Is there any other advice that you'd like to share with any moms that are at different stages in motherhood, but maybe they just don't feel like they're currently themselves?
Yeah. Well, I think my biggest goal in all of this and just, like, my career and even just personally being a mom is just to give every mom the permission to be able to, like, give time back to themselves, like, be able to, like, set boundaries with yourself, with other people, like, to put yourself first, because if we don't
Mhm.
take care of ourselves, how are we gonna take care of everybody else,
Yeah,
And it's so
that's
easy
so
to
true.
put ourselves on the back burner but it is really important to be able to, like, recognize yourself again and, like, be yourself so that you get to be the best version of the mom, partner, person that you wanna be.
Yeah, I could not agree with that more. It took a while, but my mom and I started getting facials, and we do it, like,
Nice.
every, like, 5 to 6 months, or no, 5 to 6 weeks, not months. It used to be, like, we would say before I had my daughter,
Right.
like, "Let's do this monthly," and then we never did. And then I had my daughter, and it was like, "Let's do this monthly," and then we still didn't, and now we finally got like, the last, like, 4 months, we've gotten into this groove where we go, and I just feel like such a different person. It's even just time to just relax and have
Mhm.
girl time with my mom, and, like, what's better than, like, facials and
Yeah.
talking to women and, just, like, being a girl.
Yes.
And, my husband, obviously, I don't wanna say watch because 'cause I've seen this thing lately where they're like, "Oh, your husband's actually being a dad." Because like, you're like, "Oh, he's watching our kids," and it's like,
Right.
"No, he's doing his part," Sometimes I do my part, sometimes he does his part.
Mhm.
Um, but it's really nice to have that time because, yeah, like, I look forward to that now, and I'm like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
like, even when there's a lot going on, I look forward to, like, that moment because like,
Mhm.
we set up an appointment the next, time, and we know when we're looking forward to that, and then it's almost like a vacation, you think of it, when
Yeah.
you look forward to a vacation, I look forward to that time. So I agree with that 1000%.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Well, thank you so much for coming on again. It's
Yeah.
been so nice to talk with you, so nice to meet you, and I just appreciate everything that you're doing for moms and sharing your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been amazing. It was great meeting you too.
Thank you.